Good morning, Carolina Village. Welcome to another session of your Village Vitality series. My name is Aline, and today I'll be guiding you through a full body strengthening and stretching sequence aimed at giving you some self empowerment. So, those of you that have been doing the series with me, you'll know what that probably means in terms of physical exercise is a lot of work for the core. So, the abdominals and the muscles along the back and the sides. And also, energetically, we'll be working on this space of the solar plexus that is the seat of our third chakra in our practice of yoga. And just as a refresher, the chakras are these basically, chakra translates to wheels. So they're energy centers that run parallel to the spine. And in the ancient practice of yoga, that energetic stimulation was just as important or maybe more important than the physical stimulation for these different areas. And in terms of optimizing our health. And the cool thing about the chakra system is that each chakra actually corresponds to a nerve plexus along the spine, as well as an endocrine gland in our gland system. So that's pretty neat, I think, connecting like the ancient practice to today's science. Um, and so we'll be working to stimulate the adrenal glands today that produce certain neurotransmitters that send us into fight or flight mode. The great thing about actually stimulating those glands manually via like our twisting and our folding and our abdominal contractions is that it almost works to, let's say, tone them just like we would tone a muscle or strengthen a muscle. And so that's pretty neat. And also, of course, we get the abdominal strengthening, which leads to better functioning, better balance, better coordination, and hopefully, again, that sense of empowerment. So you'll notice for my setup today that I do have my mat lengthwise. So I have the chair on the long edge of the mat. And notice my chair, the legs are just barely on there. That's to give me room when I'm at the edge of my seat where my feet are still on the mat. Keep in mind the mat is not necessary. It's just a nice addition especially if you have hard floors. And you'll also notice I have some yoga blocks today. Again, these are not necessary, but I think moving forward, I will demonstrate certain exercises where it would be useful to have a block, especially for those of you that want to go a little bit further in terms of your flexibility practice. And so these are easy to pick up either online or typically they have them at Target, Walmart, Dick's Sporting Goods, places like that. That you can get them if you want to get them in person. Pretty inexpensive. A set of blocks should probably run you no more than $20, possibly less, possibly more. You can always spend more. Just a foam block is fine. I really don't actually recommend the cork ones. They're super heavy. And so for certain things where we might want to like have a block between the thighs in order to engage the inner thighs, cork is going to be pretty challenging to hold it in place. So if you happen to have blocks, go ahead and set them up like I have them, just so that they're handy and within reach, but won't be in your way. Okay, so today, again, I really encourage barefoot practice. It's a way to work the feet and the ankles and the toes that we don't normally on a regular basis in our day. And just please be mindful of listening to your body. Since I can't see you, um, it's hard for me to know whether you're working too hard or not hard enough. And so it's really important for you to try to be in tune and listen to the cues your body's giving you, and I'll help guide you along the way with those cues. So let's go ahead and get ready for our centering practice. Remember, centering For those of you that don't like to sit still, it is so important for you especially, but also for everyone, to get in that mental space where we're connected, mind, body, and breath, and it really transforms the practice and makes it more than just these exercises we're putting our body through. It makes it more intentional, meaningful, and can have more of an effect and stimulus on the body. So maximize our time here. With our centering today, I do recommend either sitting at the edge of the chair or sitting back a little bit. So if you do have a tendency for your feet to go numb or parts of your legs to fall asleep when you sit for long periods of time, you may just want to come more to the middle of the chair, so we're not putting so much pressure on the back of the sciatic nerve. And so wherever you decide to go, try to root down and establish your foundation as much as you can. So finding alignment of the knees hip width apart, ankles under the knees, pressing down into the feet, pressing down into the hips, and that downward push helps lift up through the crown of the head. So we're just going for trying to stay nice and stacked with the ribs over the hips. So if you don't have a mirror or anything, or a partner that's practicing with you that can kind of check out your posture, you can always just put hands on your body. See if you can kind of feel how everything's spaced, because you can typically feel if you're leaning or kind of leaning forward or leaning back. And so ribs over hips, shoulders over ribs, really trying for that open chest, because this tends to be the default posture of like every human on the planet, but especially as we age, our spines go back to where they originally were in the womb, flexion. So we're curved up, and that is the only curve our spine knew from its beginning existence. We don't develop our secondary curves in the neck and the low back until we start lifting our head as a baby and until we start walking as a child. So those curves are not as dominant and much easier to lose and move back to flexion. So just try to lift up as best as you can. Again, pressing down to lift can help sometimes. Let those eyes close. And for our centering practice today, we'll be working on Ujjayi Pranayama, which can be translated to conqueror's breath. And this breath naturally, when done properly, engages the abdominals, and not just our superficial or shallowest layer of abdominals, that six-pack layer, but our deep, deep layer of abdominals called the transverse abdominis. And so as you breathe here with your eyes closed, just starting to establish that connection with the body and with the breath by observing, by pouring your focus inward. And we'll start with a variation of this breathing technique just to get the throat constriction down. And so for this first variation, you'll be inhaling through the nostrils and exhaling through the mouth. And when you exhale through the mouth, you'll make a sound like you're trying to fog a pair of sunglasses before you clean them. And so that'll be an inhale through the nostrils and exhale. And notice, especially if you try to lengthen that exhale, you feel the abdominals engage naturally without you even having to tell them to do it. So keep working on that, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. And As you continue to breathe like that, try to more purposefully engage the abdominals. So adding just an extra squeeze. So it's almost the feeling as if of a girdle sensation or a corset, like something is constricting on all sides of the abdomen. So you're not just trying to like press the navel in towards the spine, although that's a good practice, but just a full squeeze. And don't worry too much if you're having trouble feeling that. As you keep practicing, you will eventually get it. So continue to breathe with the open mouth, just a couple more breaths, and then we're going to try the same thing but with the mouth closed. So we'll be inhaling and exhaling through the nostrils. But 1 or 2 more breaths here. Now try to do that same exact thing. Same constriction in the throat, same ha, but with the mouth closed and then breathing through the nose. So it'll sound more like this. I don't know if my mic was able to pick that up, but it almost sounds like the ocean if you were listening to it in a big conch shell. So keep breathing here, several more rounds. Inhaling and exhaling now through the nostrils. If you start to become dizzy, lightheaded, or start wanting to yawn more than once, then that's your body telling you that you've effectively worked on this technique and it's time to stop. But if you're not getting those cues, keep going. Just working to deepen the inhale and that powerful exhale. Keep working on engaging the abdominals. Keep working on the upright posture. And if you're still breathing with Ujjayi, just try about 2 more inhales and exhales. After that second exhale, we're going to start moving through cat and cow or a variation of it. And if we can, we're going to try to keep working with that Ujjayi breathing. And so for this variation on your next exhale, keep with that powerful abdominal engagement, but send the arms out in front of you and make as tight of fists with your hands as you can. So chin tucks, we're moving towards that flexion of the spine, powerful abdominal engagement. And on the inhale, spread the fingertips, send those arms behind you and to the sides. Inhaling, opening the chest. Exhale. And inhale. So we're trying to work with the hands, the fingers, as well as really working the spine here. And the more shape change you can create from one movement to the other, the better. That means we're activating more muscles and we're opening up more muscles. If the arms start to get too tired here, just keep with the spinal movements, and the hands can be on the thighs. Try to keep with that Ujjayi breathing. Two more breaths. If your body allows it, last one. Remember trying to make those fists. And then arms open. And on your exhale, release. Now, if you aren't at the edge of the seat, go ahead now and scoot forward all the way to the edge. The hips are really barely on there. Reposition and set your foundation. So hips or knees hip width apart, ankles under knees. We're going to continue with abdominal engagement and optional Ujjayi breathing. with some twisting. So this is deep abdominal twisting. It won't be very noticeable, except you'll feel it a lot. But if you're just looking at someone doing it, they're barely twisting side to side. And we want the twist to happen from deep squeezing and engagement in those oblique abdominal muscles. Okay? So hands, kind of genie arms, I suppose we can call it. And on your exhale, powerful engagement here to take that little twist. Inhale to release. Exhale. Inhale, release. Again, see if you can work with that ujjayi breathing. It will help extra engagement of the abdominals. We're going to be doing a lot more twisting throughout class today. So this is a great warm-up for more twisting later. One more time to each side. And on your next exhale, relax. Go ahead and release that ujjayi breathing, unless you would just like to keep working on it throughout class, and that's totally fine. I'll cue other opportunities to bring it back into play. So next, we're going to work through a little sequence to start warming up the lower body as well, and the hips especially. So drawing that right knee into the chest, go ahead and grab hold on the front of that knee with the left hand, and we're going to just twist to the right side. This is not a powerful abdominal engagement twist. This is more of a twist happening kind of at the shoulders and solar plexus, and just aimed more towards opening and stretching. So we're twisting to that right side, and then we're going to switch. So we're going to switch hands on the knee, twisting just a little to the left while you open that knee as far out to the right as you can. And if twisting just kind of throws you off with opening, focus more on the opening. So we're going to do that a couple more times. Switch hands, left hand on front of the knee. Draw that knee towards the left, twist towards the right. Shoulders stay relaxed. And then switch. Switch hands, switch the way you're twisting, and then you're opening that right knee to the side. Let's do that about 2 more times. Always working in opportunities to work on your coordination, stimulate your brain, those neural pathways. It's so important, especially as we age. All right, release the twist, but keep that knee out to the side. Go ahead and send that foot down. Try to straighten that leg out and over to the side. If you feel like you need to, because of your hips or anything feels a little weird and you want to shift a little, maybe over to the right, go for it. Feel comfortable and set in your foundation of your feet. That foot should be really in line with the hip as much as you can. And you're trying to root the whole foot down if you can. We're just going to take a little side-to-side reaches in this gate pose. Hands can be on the hips, or if you need a little more support, worried about your balance and maybe falling out of your chair, then hands can come side to side to the chair. We're just going to take a little reach to the right, exhaling, inhaling to come up, and then exhaling to the left, and inhaling up. So just moving breath by breath, trying to keep the chest open. And remember your option to have the hand on the chair for a little more support. And it may help you move a little deeper into your side bending. So try both. See which way you like better. Let's take one more stretch to each side, and then we'll do just a little forward reach to stretch that inner thigh a bit more. Now here, if you do have blocks, you may want to go ahead and grab them before you start to fold forward. So if you have the blocks, Go ahead and place them out in front of you on either side of that left foot. Just a little forward stretch here. So perhaps you can get hands to this thigh, maybe elbow. If you can get your forearm down, then you most likely can get your hands to blocks. And so for this, you're putting your weight into the blocks. You can adjust how much height the blocks give you. So there are really 3 options. This one is the lowest option where you're almost able to touch the floor, but just not quite there yet. So keep in mind all of those options. Couple more breaths. Perhaps stretching inner thigh here, maybe a little bit into the hamstrings, definitely into the back and hip. And then slowly start to come up. I recommend, if you can, to bring the blocks with you as you come up if you're using them. Go ahead and set them back to the sides. Bring that foot back to center. If you have shifted over to the right, go ahead and shift back to the middle. And we're going to do that twisting hip opening on the other side now. So drawing that left knee into the hip, right hand, twist to the left as you bring that knee over to the right. You'll notice a stretch probably in what's called the IT band or the whole outside of that leg. And then switching hands and switching directions. So you're twisting to the right, opening that knee out to the left. And you're just moving side to side. I like to do this on an exhale, so twist. And then inhale to kind of come back to center. Exhale to the other side. Inhale, center. Exhale, other side. If you can link the breathing like that and you can take nice deep breaths, that's great. If not, don't worry too much about it. Just make sure you are breathing and not holding your breath. Try to stay lifted and upright. Let's take one more to each side. Remember, this time as you open out, release that twist, but keep the knee out. Send that foot down, and then start to straighten out that leg. So remember, you might want to shift a little in your chair to free up that left hip, just to get it feeling a little more comfortable and possibly allowing for better alignment in terms of getting that ankle right in line with this left hip. Make sure you're creating as close to a 90-degree angle as you can here. And we're just going side to side to begin. So hands can be on the chair for support, or hands can be on the hips for a little more challenge. So we're just stretching away, lengthening that whole side of the body, and then stretching towards that straight leg. The whole time trying to keep the chest open forward. And again, you may want to move with your breathing and link that breath and body. So exhaling into your reach, inhaling to center. Exhaling and inhaling. Exhaling. So as you probably can tell, we're getting into the shoulders here as well. So this class is a lot about arm and shoulder strength today too, which I didn't mention at the beginning. All right, when you're ready, grab those blocks if you're using them. Place them on either side of that front foot. And let's get ready to take a deep inhale to lift. Exhale to start to hinge forward, keeping the back flat for as long as you can. And then releasing down into your stretch. And remember, hands can come to the blocks. When you're using the blocks, just be mindful not to lock the elbows. So you want to keep a little bend. just try to relax here as much as you can into the stretch. Notice where you're feeling sensation. Those of you who are a little more flexible might not feel much stretch here at all anywhere. But again, you might be feeling it in the straight leg, the inner thigh area, in the hip, in the back. Just one or two more breaths here. And then we'll start to make our way up slowly. And again, if it's accessible to you, if you can come up and have the back and core strength to not need to bring hands to the leg, go ahead and just bring your blocks with you. Set them over to either side. Go ahead and come back to the center of your chair for our final warm-up movement before we start our vinyasa, our flow sequences. And so again, at the edge of the seat, this time hands are going to come behind you. You're taking a slight tilt back. Don't disengage here. So, she's letting us relax. You still want to stay lifted, open, and abdominals are slightly engaged. We're just going to work on bringing a little strength to the quads and working at the ankles and toes. So we're going to straighten that right leg, flex that foot, point it, flex it again, and down. I added an extra flex in there. Let's do the left now. Straighten, point, one flex, and down. So we're just switching. Straighten, point, flex, and down. Straighten, point, flex, and down. Try to keep the chest open. Try to keep the shoulders down. So this really is strengthening the abdominals. Just getting into those ankles. So important when it comes to stability and fall prevention. And strengthening those quads here as well, our quadricep muscles. Let's do two more on each leg. Normal breathing. Last one. Wait, I think one more on each leg now. Sorry if I added an extra. Sorry, not sorry. It's for your benefit. This is the last one. And go ahead and come all the way back up to the edge of the chair. Excellent. Warm up, y'all. Let's get ready to do our flow sequence. And we are going to do a lot of flowing today. I think that linking breath body movement, linking the movement and without it being so choppy really gets into the joints more and makes us use our core more because we have to for stabilization. All right. So finding your seated mountain pose. We're going to take 3 breaths to fold down, 3 breaths while we're in our forward fold, 3 breaths to come up, and then 3 breaths in our back bend. So here we go. Let's inhale those arms up. And everybody exhale, fold just slightly. Hands can be on the thighs as well. Inhale, exhale, fold a little more. Try to keep that spine long. Inhale, exhale, fold all the rest of the way. And then allow for 3 breaths while you're down here, trying to release as much as you can in the shoulders, the arms, the head. One more breath. And as you make your way up, that first inhale will lift you just the head and shoulders, bringing those hands to the hips. Exhale, pause. Inhale, come a little more. Exhale, pause. Inhale, come the rest of the way up. Grab hold of those bars on the exhale. And then pressing any amount more into the chest, into the belly for those next 3 breaths, holding your back bend. Chin lifts. Last inhale. And exhale to release. All right. Now for a little more challenge. Sending those fingertips behind the ears. Do not interlace the hands and bring them behind the head. No. That can disengage you a little bit. It can also push you beyond your means. It can jerk on your neck because you might accidentally, without realizing it, be pushing your chin forward. So just fingertips touching those ears. Try to open the elbows out as much as you can. Of course, you might be limited in terms of your mobility, but go for open out to the sides. We're going to twist to the right and tuck that right knee in. So exhaling, maybe that ujjayi breathing. Try to straighten on your inhale. Exhale, bend again. And inhale, release. Same side. Exhale, twist. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. Inhale, release. 3 more times, 5 total. Inhale. 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 One more. Twist. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. And come to center. Nice job. I hope I didn't cheat you out of 1. I think that was 5. If you counted differently, add 1 more if I missed 1. Let's straighten out that right leg. We're going to move now into a forward fold position. Again, if you got your blocks, go ahead and take them with you. You can either bring them with you as you fold, or you can set them on either side of your legs. So deep inhale to lift and lengthen. Try to keep that length as you fold for as long as you can. And again, if you can get your forearms down to your thigh, then you most likely, just depending on arm length, will be able to reach your blocks. And so either hands here, maybe you don't have blocks, but you're really close to the floor. You might want to bring a hand to that shin. And so as you release into this stretch, really try to push the tailbone back behind you. So we're working on that anterior tilt of the pelvis or forward tilt. So I want to open the tailbone back, press the belly forward. And you should feel that increase the stretch in the hamstrings. And I even feel that increase the stretch in my calf when I just shift the pelvis. I'm doing it now and you probably can't even tell. It's very subtle, but you'll feel the sensation, especially if you're tuned in. And that's why we do that centering in the beginning of class. One of the reasons. Slowly start to make your way up. If you can, you're using your back and core strength and no arms, and you're carrying those blocks with you. Or if you don't have blocks, you're still just working on that core strength. Let's go ahead and start to open out now into Warrior 2. So if you want a little more challenge, try this with no hands. Left leg is going to stay bent. Right leg is going to be straight. Of course, you can use your hands behind you to adjust yourself. So here we really want both hips pretty securely on the chair. The front knee is over the ankle. We're trying to open out as much as we can, but you may end up looking a little more like this, and that's fine. But again, you're trying to go for as wide of a hip opening as you can. Root that back foot down. When you're ready, send those arms out. And some of you may not feel that that's an option for you. If your balance is really, really bad and you're worried about falling out of the chair, just try one arm. I would recommend that front arm. But really, you can do either, just whatever feels most secure to you. Here, we're going to attempt a flow sequence. I'll show different versions as we go through it for options with the arms. So why don't y'all watch for just a moment in your Warrior 2, so you're working on strengthening the shoulders and arms. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to flow through this. So one without arms and one with. And so without will be even just maybe one arm, if possible. So Warrior 2, we're going to try to transition to a high lunge. So I'm going to pivot onto the back toes, drop this hip down. And if I'm using one arm, I'm going to use that right arm and lift it up. Then moving here into a twist, that arm will move forward. Back to high lunge. And back to Warrior 2. If you want a little more challenge and want to use both arms, it'll look like this. So you're going to pivot into your high lunge, send both arms up, move into your twist, both arms move out to the shoulders, come back to that high lunge, and then back to your Warrior 2. And then, of course, you can do no arms. So neither of the arms come up, and you're just moving through those lower body movements. All right, so you should be feeling it now in that hip. Let's move together now. So I'm going to show with both arms, but now you know your options. On an exhale, start to rotate that right hip down, pivot onto the back toes, inhaling up for high lunge. On an exhale, moving into your twist. On an inhale, back to high lunge. On an exhale, Warrior 2. And let's keep cycling. So an inhale, high lunge. Exhale, twist. Inhale, high lunge. And exhale, Warrior 2. One more time, y'all. Stick with it if you can. Inhale, high lunge. Exhale, twist. Inhale, high lunge. Exhale, Warrior 2. And go ahead and relax. Woo! Might be feeling it in a lot of different places. Wiggle it out, shake it out, decompress however you need to. We're going to do all of that loveliness on the other side now. So coming to your seated mountain pose, setting your foundation, pressing down, lifting up. Taking our 3 breaths to fold, so arms can be up, arms can be out, or hands can be on the thighs for more support. Either way, inhale those arms up. Exhale, remember you're just folding about 1/3 of the way down. Inhale, pause. Exhale, fold a little more. Inhale, pause. Exhale, fold all the way down. Taking 3 breaths while you're down here. Maybe linking opposite elbows. This is also a place where you might want to use your blocks, especially if you're trying to keep your head in line with the heart. So you can use your blocks here, or just basically if you want more support. Sometimes I even bring my blocks out in front of me to get a little deeper of a shoulder stretch and a back stretch. So lots of different options here. But those 3 breaths are probably done now. So let's start to get ready to make our way up. I do recommend everyone bring the hands to the thighs for this. That first inhale lifts and engages the back of the shoulders. So try not to lift with the head. It's going to be tempting, but I want you to keep the gaze down. So that first inhale, lifting about 1/3 of the way up. Pause on the exhale. Next inhale, another 1/3. Pausing on the exhale. Inhale all the way up. Exhale to send the arms back. And then 3 breaths in your back bend. So pressing the chest forward, lifting the chin, pressing the navel forward. I'm taking your 3 breaths here. On an exhale, releasing. And getting ready for that intense abdominal work next. So, fingertips behind the ears. Trying to open those elbows out as much as you can. Trying to press the shoulders down. So, a lot of energetic things going on here. You're going to take that deep abdominal exhale, tucking that left knee in as you twist to the left. Inhale, straighten the leg. Exhale, bend and tuck any amount more. And inhale to center. I'm doing my Ujjayi breathing. You don't have to, but I recommend it. Exhale, twist. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, knee. Inhale, center. 3 more times. Two more. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Last one. And release. Why do I feel like we still only did 4? I don't know. If we only did 4, do one more. Relax if not. Straighten out that left leg. And if you want to, grab your blocks. And place them on the outsides here. We're going for that nice forward fold, stretching the hamstrings and the low back. So keeping length as long as you can. Releasing down. And again, possibly hands to blocks. And remember, so many options in terms of how you set the blocks up. You do want to try to challenge yourself in everything that you do in this class. If we're constantly challenging ourselves, then we're constantly improving. So we never want to stay too stagnant, but just understand that that challenge may have to come slowly. So maybe you do, if we're talking blocks, maybe you're at this level of block for a couple weeks. Then you're here, and it may take you a month or more to get here. But you don't want to just stay here every time, all the time, for the next year, you know. It might be a new concept for a lot of you. You want to keep challenging yourself. Unless you're completely satisfied with your strength and your flexibility, and you just want to maintain what you have. All right. So slowly coming up. Remember, if you want a little more challenge, come up with no hands. If you got your blocks, you may as well carry them with you when you come up. Let's get into that warrior 2 positioning on the other side. So straightening that left leg out to the side, right leg opens. Maybe you're shifting the hips a little bit, figuring out what feels the best for you on the edge of your chair here. And then sending maybe one arm, maybe both arms. And I'll just show you again quickly on this side the transition so that you can join me on that first one. So holding your warrior 2 proudly here while you watch me, you're going to shift and pivot that left hip moving forward. Arms come up if you're doing both arms. Exhaling to your twist. Sweeping that right arm down and up. Back to high lunge. And then back to warrior 2. All right, let's do it together 3 times. Remember, you can do no arms, or you can just work with one arm while this right arm remains on the chair for balance and support. On your next exhale, sweep down, pivot onto those back toes, inhaling up for high lunge. Exhale, twist. Inhale back to high lunge. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, high lunge. Exhale, twist. Inhale, high lunge. And exhale, warrior two. One more time. You got this. It might not look beautiful and seamless, but whatever variation you're working through is exactly where you need to be today. And go ahead and relax. Shake it out. Let's make our way up to standing. And I do recommend moving your chair so that you have a lot of mat behind your chair. Those of you who feel good about your balance, you can get up out of your chair without having to use your hands. Come with me for some chair pose. And if you have a block, grab one of those suckers, bring it between the thighs. This will not only help with your alignment of the width of your legs, or your feet, but also engaging those inner thighs. Because this one wasn't challenging enough. You needed more. So walking those heels in, shifting that weight forward, hands can come forward, squeeze that block, hover over that seat. Remember, if the arms is just too much challenge, or you want to focus more on the legs, bring those hands to a prayer position. Squeeze that block. It can kind of help distract from everything else that's engaging so hard here. And let's slowly come up. Let's try to come up in 3 breaths. Inhale, straighten just a little bit. Exhale, pause. Inhale, straighten a little more. Exhale, pause. Inhale, come all the way up. And exhale. Nice work. Take that block. We will not be using those blocks anymore. You can set them off to the side. Go ahead and do reposition your chair. I'm going to actually move my whole mat too, which you probably don't need to do. I mean, maybe to view the TV better. But you do want your setup so that you've got a lot of space on the back end of your chair. We'll be doing a standing warrior two. And so it's nice to have the foot fully on the mat. Okay. So working on a lot of balance today, because I do think that helps with feeling empowered, is feeling confident in your body and in your movements, and you're not worrying about falling all the time. And so, of course, balance work helps with fall prevention. So standing sideways, let's do left hand to the chair first. The only exception to standing sideways is if you feel like even just doing this, you're going to fall. Then I want you to face the chair. We're going to be working on stork balance first. So feet hip width apart, parallel, stacking everything on top of itself. Shift a little to the left, bend that right knee. Start to pick that right knee up. So knee up towards chest. Maybe one hand goes out. Perhaps you try lifting this left hand away, bringing it back down, just testing the balance. Or even sending this hand in line with the other. But again, it's up to you. Please stay safe. Safe challenge. Be sure you're breathing here. Try a little longer. This left ankle may be wobbling all over the place, and that's normal. Try to root down through the foot, through the toes. Grip with those little toes. It's partly why we're barefoot. Go ahead and release. Shake it out a little bit. Come back to your standing position. Inhaling that knee back up. Let's open it out and bring it back and down. Just a little bit more hip mobility and strengthening. This is often used as a warm-up technique, opening and closing the gate. Let's do one more. Okay, now take that right foot, big step out. You should be able to still touch the chair. So in kind of a starfish type position, you're just going to turn those left toes towards the chair. Bend into that left knee, and you're in standing warrior two now. So right leg is straight, left knee is bent. You can send that right arm back behind you, shoulder height. And if you're feeling good about it or want to test the balance a little bit, you can send that left arm out as well. We're just going to hang out here a couple breaths. Gazing over those left fingertips. Shoulders are down even though the arms are working hard. Take one more deep inhale. And on your exhale, release the arms. Right hand comes back to the hip. If you can, I'm going to show two ways to come out of this. If you want more challenge and you feel pretty good about it, you can try to just kind of springboard off that back foot, coming immediately to our final balance posture. Or if you just watched that and you were thinking, Aline, you are crazy, then you're going to take little baby steps in. Maybe even both hands come to the chair. Shift that weight into the left foot. Try to lift that right leg. Try to keep that right hip open. So we don't want this to happen. We're trying to stay open. It's good to test the balance in lots of different positions. This is almost like a I'm about to fall, maybe I can catch myself position. This is called half moon or Ardha Chandrasana. If you can, that right arm is coming up. If you want to try for full expression of this posture, you're probably going to bring the hand to the seat of the chair, and you're trying to lift that leg parallel to the ground and sending that right arm up. You might fall out of it and come back into it. You might never lift hands away, and that's fine. But again, you're trying to open out to the side. This is also strengthening the hip and core on that right side. Whew. Let's call it a day. Inhale to come up. Let's take a little stretch before we hit the other side. So cross that right ankle over the left ankle. And you're just going to push out towards that right hip. You'll probably feel a stretch all along the side, possibly all along the outer edge of that right leg and hip. A little bit of an awkward looking stretch, but you'll feel it. You just kind of have to wiggle around and figure out where it feels the most stretch for you. Couple more breaths. And then you guys can just turn so that your right hip is facing the chair, but I'm going to move my chair so that I'm still facing you. So starting out with that stork balance. Remember, you can be facing the chair for all of this stuff that we've done, except this really can't. I mean, you kind of can do it facing the chair, but I recommend sideways. All right. So setting your foundation, stacking, engaging here at the core. Shift just slightly into the right hip, bending that left knee. Finding your focal point, your drishti, your one-pointed focus. That speck of whatever. That one little object that you're looking at, try to hyper-focus. That can sometimes help with the balance. And if you have to drop that leg down and then bring it back up 5 times, do it. Don't give up. Keep working on it. Ultimately, maybe trying to lift this right hand away, even just for a second, or coming to the full expression of the posture, stork balance. Core engaged, pressing down into that right foot, lifting up out of the leg, just kind of how we practice sitting down. Make sure you're not holding your breath. On an exhale, relax. Shake those legs out if you need to. Let's open and close the gate a few times on this side. So hand to hip, knee up, open out, bring it back to center and down. Trying to isolate that movement to the hip, so really focus on engaging the solar plexus and abdominals. A few more times. Woo, feel that burn. That means progress. Building our body back stronger and more flexible. And again, it's maybe little micro changes, but if you keep working on it and stay consistent, you will see the difference. And speaking of that, I would love to hear from any of y'all that have noticed, especially if you've been working from day one more, that have noticed changes in anything. Are you able to get out of your chair easier? Are you able to grocery shop easier? I want to hear it. Let me know. Okay. Warrior 2. So big step out with that left foot, kind of in your starfish position. So feet should be a little bit wider, or at least at shoulder width. So my shoulder width would be like here, so I am a little wider. Turn the right toes towards your chair. Start to bend into that right knee. Never want the knee to move beyond the toes. Really want to try to keep it in line with the ankle if you can. And you also want to make sure, I should have mentioned on the other side, it's very easy to not think about it. Tight inner thighs, weak outer thighs will pull that knee forward. We really want to try to keep the knee in line with the toes. So I really want to try to push it out, open it out. All right. Get at least that left arm up, possibly the right arm too. And hanging out here in Warrior 2 for a couple more breaths. Gazing out over that right middle finger if you have that arm lifted. And getting ready to shift into half moon balance. So possibly in one seamless, beautiful movement of shifting over and lifting that hip up, or possibly little baby steps in, maybe both hands here, lifting up, careful of that chair wanting to come up as well. Or maybe you just gotta, whatever, transition in any way that you need to. Let's all find ourselves, though, in this half moon balance. So anytime my leg is lifted, it's engaged. I'm not just saggy, limp ankle, saggy, limp wrist. I'm energizing that arm, energizing that leg. Remember, you can come down to the chair or seat of the chair. This would have been possibly a good use for a block, but don't move. I would not recommend the block here. That's going to be very unstable. Use it on the flat, or the, I guess, largest surface area edge. If you're close to reaching that hand in the chair, but just not quite there. Like I told you, so many uses for blocks. Even around the house, possibly, you might find a use, or other types of exercise. All right, when you've had enough of that balance, come on up. Let's stretch that hip a little bit, outer leg. So this time crossing the abdominals. This time crossing the left ankle over and pushing. Again, for me, I just push directly to the left, and I just feel it stretch all of this. You may need to experiment. Maybe you're pushing a little more back or a little more front. It's going to be different for everyone. Nice work today, y'all. You should be very proud. Hopefully you feel pretty awesome. Pretty strong. Even if you weren't able to do half of what I recommended today, that's still a lot of hard work. Try not to judge yourself too harshly. We are our toughest critics typically. All right, let's relax. You have definitely earned a good relaxation today. So, get comfy. Go to your armchair. Go to your couch. Lay down on the couch. If you don't have those options, or maybe you want to lay on the ground with your legs up in the chair. I'm going to lay in the chair just for time's sake. And so if you are using the chair like I am, or let's say you're in an armchair, so you're seated instead of reclined all the way down, just try to keep the chest open. Try not to move into that perpetual like flexion posture. Because even in a good, supportive, brand new armchair or reclining chair, it's still easy, so surprisingly easy to have this terrible forward posture. So try to stay open even as you relax here. With the legs, I recommend just kind of letting them release. Typically, for most people, that means they're going to fall open to the sides a little bit. So get comfy, close the eyes. You can even throw a blanket over you. And we are trying not to fall asleep here, but trying to reach a state of deep relaxation. And you may find it helpful to either think about and bring your attention to different body parts to relax them, or actually physically engage them and then relax them. So for instance, you could scrunch up your toes, and then on an exhale, relax the feet. Maybe engage the glutes, squeeze them, and then on an exhale, relax. Maybe you engage the abdominals, and on an exhale, relax. Engaging the shoulders, scrunching them up to the ears, squeezing the face. And then on an exhale, relax. And relax the breathing as well. With no more effort or trying to deepen the breathing. Just allow the breath to do its thing. And just notice the relaxed feeling, the heavy feeling, as if you were fusing, melting into whatever you're laying or sitting on. And just as you have relaxed and made the body feel heavy, see if you can start to bring the opposite sensation now, a sense of lightness, airiness, weightlessness. Just by starting to send your inhales deeper, as if you could send that breath to the toes and wake them up. Sending it to the fingers to wake them up. And just starting to make your movements a little bit bigger. But of course, if you like to stay in Shavasana longer, you can do it for 15 minutes. Hopefully without falling asleep. We only practice for about 3 to 5 minutes. Take a nice stretch. If you're laying down, you may just want to stay there, but become a little more alert. If you're sitting, go ahead and come to a little more of an upright seated position. And just again, like I said, waking up a little bit. Bring the palms together in front of the heart, whether you're reclined, laying down, or seated upright. Just expressing a sense of love and gratitude to yourself and to anyone else that you want to send this love to. And maybe you feel that sense of empowerment welling up in you and you want to send that to someone else too. And may this power that is ever present within you shine out through every thought, every action, every word. Thank you for your practice today. Namaste. So glad you joined me. I hope that you benefited from that session. And if you have questions, comments, requests, if you want worksheets on breathing techniques, if you want to reach out to me and let me know if you have benefited from this series and what, your testimonials may help someone that's on the fence about trying it out. It may help sway them. So reach out to me, as always. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.